Hey everyone, going for a nice walk, but I really wanted to share a video with you that I recorded with my community network Spotlight. It's a community of Web3 founders, developers, builders, professionals, and I had a really great guest. His name is Teng, ex Delphi Digital, and now he runs a research company called Chain of Thought. He dives into AI and deepen, and he's been in this stuff way before it became popular. And so there's a lot of hype around AI agents. And so I wanted to dive in, cut through the noise, and get to the stuff that really matters. So check it out.
Always happy to chat AI. I've been in tech for like more than 10 years. In the early days, I started a healthcare AI company. That was in 2015, and that was the pre-GPT era. That was when we were using like very traditional machine learning, NLP techniques. But I think like I haven't seen anything that has excited me so much as what has been going on in the generative AI space today. I think we are definitely this is probably the most interesting like technology trend I'll ever see in my lifetime. So I'm really excited to be here and be part of this. And I'm grateful every day to have the opportunity to be in this industry. So yeah, happy to chat.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, let's start with just unpacking the basics because there's probably different levels of expertise on this channel, and really for those that are watching, let's start with the basics in terms of there's two types of people. There's people that are curious about this new technology, and there's people that view this as overhyped. Let's start with just the basics of what exactly is all the fuss about around AI agents. That seems to be the big hot topic right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it was actually pretty surprising to me as well because we've been watching what's been going on in crypto AI throughout the most of last year. And it was really, I think the inflection point of interest was really with Truth Terminal and Gold. And when that story sort of like started spreading across the crypto circles and the mainstream circles, like suddenly the level of interest like in AI agents among the people who aren't directly in the industry just sort of like skyrocketed. And I think the reason for this is because people realize that um, suddenly there were things that we weren't able to do before, we could do it now. And it was almost like magic, right? Like seeing some of these agents actually having a real proper conversation on social media. And sometimes like these conversations are so good that you aren't even able to differentiate it from actual human being, right? I personally find it very difficult sometimes to tell whether I'm talking to a real person or a bot, especially on the internet. So that really kind of like unlocked something in people's minds where, hey, this is something real. This is something like super cool. This is something novel. I've never seen this before. And I start thinking about like, okay, what can I start to do with this technology? So I think that collective I guess like spark like just went off in like many people's minds. And the thing about this is that unlike like many other things that sometimes happens in crypto, what's going on in AI is very real. And if you look at how the pace of development in the non-crypto AI space, like it's just been astounding, and it doesn't show any signs of like stopping. Every single, almost every week we are seeing like new models get released with new levels of capabilities, better performance. OpenAI just released a very powerful model, the O3 model, which is able to do very deep thinking. And so has really stretched the capabilities of what we think an AI can do. And I think that level of pace of improvement is only going to continue to improve. And as the AI models improve, the capabilities and use cases for AI agents are going to sort of like continue to improve as well. And if I go back to maybe a little bit of like the basics around this, like what exactly is an AI agent, is that because some people think that, okay, an AI model is an AI agent, but the AI model is only one component of an AI agent. If you think about like what goes in that AI agent, an AI agent has a brain, which is basically the AI model that powers it and decides like how it actually does the various things it does. It has a data feed, which means that it needs to be able to process and receive information from various sources. It has a set of actions and tasks it can do. For example, if my AI agent is connected to my Twitter account, it can then post on my behalf. Or if it's connected to my Discord channel, it can post on my behalf on that area. And we're seeing all of these paths from the data feeds to the AI models to the degree and different actions that an AI agent can take via like various APIs, or even nowadays like with some of the newer tools that, say, companies like Anthropic have done with computer use, and AI can actually even navigate your computer screen the same way as we might actually click buttons on the screen as well, which unlocks a lot of very interesting users of these technology. So at the end of the day, that really is what an agent is. And I think there are various spectrums of capabilities. Like some agents are what we call like truly autonomous agents. These are agents that can actually think for itself. You give it a very sort of like high level goal. For example, make as much money as you can. You give it a budget. You fund it with a bit of wallet, and it goes out there, figures out what it actually needs to do, find the best investment opportunities, and starts to go into it. I think that's a very sexy and very interesting future. Most of the agents today tend to be more, there is still a very significant element of like human direction, where there's always a human behind the scene that is actually sort of like vetting some of the outputs and actions that an AI agent does. It sort of like does some of this filtering, because the level of technology is still not at the level where the AI doesn't make mistakes, right? And if it makes a mistake when it's handling something like, say, your crypto wallet, or where you're handling certain number of funds, then it can be quite catastrophic, and there is going to be some like consequences in that. So we are at the stage where the technology is very interesting. The pace of improvement is getting very real. We are not yet there where it's just going to replace everything that we're going to do, but I think the trend is pretty clear, and most people kind of agree that in the coming years, my belief is that almost every single application that we use today, whether it's Instagram, is it Facebook, is it LinkedIn, everything is going to be rebuilt with an AI agent at the heart of it, and that creates a lot of very interesting opportunities for entrepreneurs as well as investors.
As far as the content goes, Teng, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, because when you look at accounts like AI XBT, it's crazy the amount of information that is provided and how often AI XBT tweets, and also all of the replies. Literally every single message that it gets, every comment, there's a reply there. And I commented on it once, and I said, "You're the ultimate reply guy." Because seriously, like, they can do so much more than what we as humans are capable of. So I definitely see that. But once we get past this like shiny object syndrome, and we're seeing these AI agents, create their own content. Like, what is the end goal here? Like, what are some of the things that businesses will be able to do here in 2026, 2027 when the dust settles?
Yeah. So I think I think you put it very right. I think we're seeing a bit of one is a saturation point of the current iteration of AI agents, where an agent that just focuses on posting on social media, I think that's not going to be very interesting. People are starting to get sick of it, and that novelty has started to wear off. And I think we are slowly moving down the spectrum of productive use cases of AI agents. So, for example, like AI XBT that you mentioned, I think that's actually a very pretty cool example. And the first time I saw AI XBT, I actually thought, I couldn't believe it was actually a AI bot. I thought, like, just because of how clean it was in terms of the tweets it was posting out, I thought it was actually a human behind it. But I think now, after several other people have spoken to the team and vetted it, we know that it's just very good engineering and very good data sources that have actually come into building this, which is pretty amazing to me. So, see, AI XBT is able to do research, is able to score a lot of information that we, even myself as a researcher, even if I spend 24 hours a day, I won't be able to process as much information as AI XBT might be able to do. And then we will get to like trading agents, right? So these are agents that will be able to sort of like execute trades on our behalf. It's able to generate, able to generate financial value. It's going to be able to sort of like optimize my strategies on my various like DeFi protocols in order to maximize my yield while taking into account my personal sort of like risk profile. So I think that's the next sort of like iteration, and we're seeing really some of these agents that are coming to play. The set of AI agents, which I think are going to be pretty transformative, are sort of like software agents, right? So these are agents that are able to write code autonomously, is able to get pull requests from GitHub, is able to sort of like fix some of these bugs on its own and push the code back out there, is able to check other people's work on its own. So you can imagine that it's a very interesting future where you could actually have like swarms of AI agents actually start to build software on your own. The thing about software is that the good software is it's very functional in the sense that it's very easy to tell when is right or wrong, right? So if you write a piece of code that's supposed to do a certain thing, if you execute it and it doesn't do that, then you know the code is wrong and something went wrong. But if it does it, then you know that's right. So that there's a very clear like black and white, and that's why AI performance in software engineering has really made a lot of like strides, much more than in other areas, where the judgment of the outputs is not so deterministic. Like for example, in more creative fields like say video generation or art, it's very hard to tell, is this image better than another image? And so that creates some challenges. Whereas in some of these fields, I think like the level of pace of improvement is going to just go very quickly. And then like beyond that, like I think like almost every single like vertical that we see is going to be touched by AI agents. You know, healthcare, in law, where lawyers have to actually process huge amount of like legal documentation, and the laws in every different jurisdiction is very different. It's quite easy to imagine an AI agent is able to sort of like takes a lot of this information, process it, and present it in a way that actually reduces a lot of the I would say like very menial, repetitive sort of like work that is being done today. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest like disruption in terms of what AI agents have to bring. Is they are really going to replace a lot of current spending in the services industry, which means that they're going to be taking over a number of like different jobs, where we eventually find that AI agents are actually able to do it in a much better way at a much cheaper cost. And that's going to be a little bit yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty big like upheaval in the world, both from a societal point of view. We have to figure out like how do we deal with the technologies, but also from an enterprise productive view, like where you can actually have a very lean sort of like team, but still be a lot more productive than say other organizations that doesn't use AI, but has a very large sort of like workforce.
I have another follow-up question to that, but before I get to that, it looks like we have a question here in the chat. Right now, it looks like AI agent projects launch token just for fundraising. Are there any cases where the tokens have utility for the agents?
So I think what everybody is trying to do is trying to figure out like what the token actually does, right? So you're right. I think right now most of these are pretty much like either like meme coins and they're trading purely on attention. Some of them have a certain sort of like value accrual mechanism. For example, especially the AI agent Launchpads, the tokens actually, for example, if you create an agent, you have to pay a certain fee. Some of that fee is used to buy back and burn the token or bring the token into the treasury. So there's a certain way to tie revenue generation back to the token, which I think is interesting, particularly for the platforms that actually are launchpads for AI agents. I think the other use case for tokens, which we are seeing some experimentation, AI16Z DAO is actually one of these that's also trying to figure out some of this is really how we can use a token to give people collective ownership over an AI agent. So that means for this particular AI agent, token holders it's almost like autonomous DAO. Token holders can decide, okay, hey, are we going to upgrade the model that the AI agent is going to use? And then based on the number of tokens that you have, we do a vote. And if a majority of people want to do it, then we sort of like upgrade the AI agent's model, or we pass a proposal to say that this AI agent should be taking this particular action, and we should be changing it in some way. So that collective governance as well as ownership over the AI agent model is one possible use case of the token. But I think we're still really at very early days. I think besides the sort of like revenue tying back to like buying the token, I haven't seen a lot of like very new sort of like tokenomic sort of like design. And I think we'll probably see more of that in this coming year.
Teng, how are we supposed to be viewing the tech stack here? You have like the AI agent that sits on top, and it sits on a Launchpad, which sits on the framework, or like help me understand the actual stack here.
Yeah. So I guess there are many different components today. If you look at it purely from a modular and granular level, like say if you were to build an AI agent, just like I outlined before, like you need to tie the data feeds to the agent. You need to have the AI model do the inference. So you need to find someone that hosts the AI model, or you might use say GPT-4 or something like that. You need to be able to tie the agent to a series of actions that it needs to do. So one way is that if you are a developer, you can actually just code all of this up yourself, right? You just build all of this from scratch using any of your favorite programming languages, and you can have the agents sort of going. Today we have agent frameworks. So for example, the ones that are pretty cool are like Virtuals, AI16Z, and what these frameworks do is that they abstract away a lot of the complexities in terms of actually writing the very specific code. Let's say if I want to pull this data feed from Twitter, if I want the agent to post on Twitter, these frameworks basically already have these like built in. And by using these frameworks, you are able to very easily get your agent to actually do all these actions that are part of this. So there are actually many of these different agent frameworks out there, both in crypto, but even beyond crypto. Microsoft has a great one like AutoGPT. The most famous or the most used one is probably like LangGraph or LangChain, and all these are very powerful frameworks that allow like developers to quickly put together different components of the AI agent, adjust them along the way, and sort of launch it. So that framework is very much a developer tool. And then the next step is basically an AI agent launchpad, right? And an AI agent launchpad is basically a tool that allows people to sort of like take some of the tools of whatever framework they're using, create an AI agent. Oftentimes, I create a token that's tied to that AI agent and basically launch it out. So that's the sort of like the next layer down from the agent frameworks, which is agent frameworks are pretty much, many of them are like open source. Anyone can kind of like use it. There's nothing that says that you have to pay them to actually use this. AI agent launchpads become a little bit like businesses where usually they charge some kind of fee for anyone who uses it and wants to launch an AI agent. And then finally, you have all the way down, you have that individual AI agent that actually comes from one of these launchpad. It usually has some kind of like function, but it also has this token that's tied to it in some way. So that's very roughly how I kind of like see the differences between like these frameworks, the launchpad, as well as the AI agent itself.
One of the things that I've learned just reading through your content, which by the way, if anybody here is not subscribed yet, highly recommend chainofthought.xyz. Highly recommend subscribing to the newsletter that Teng puts out. But one of the things that I've learned was that Base and Solana seem to be further ahead other ecosystems when it comes to AI and AI agents. I mean, do you see any other chains that could potentially advance in that area as well?
Yes. So Solana and Base, they are where the homes of like today's AI agents. And for a few reasons, right? One is that for Base, a lot of it is because like Virtuals, which was one of the early and very visionary, I would say, like teams that have been building for quite a while. They actually had their launchpad on Base, and that makes it a lot easier for anyone to launch an AI agent. And so that's why we saw many teams actually launch their agents using Virtuals, and Base became that sort of like ecosystem for these builders. And then on Solana, we actually Solana, we have another group of set of builders. I would say they tend to be much more financially focused. These agents tend to be much more like degen style compared to the agents on Base, and so that's another focus group of like of users. What I would say is that in my conversations, like every single blockchain is thinking about like how they can actually build an AI agents ecosystem for a couple of reasons. Right, one is that to me, it's very clear that, say, in a year's time or maybe 2 years' time, like more than 90% of the transactions that's done on the blockchain will not be done by a human being. It's not going to be done by us, like clicking on MetaMask and signing a transaction. It's going to be done by AI agents. We're just going to tell the AI agent, hey, let's do this, swap this token for me, and use this DeFi protocol in the same way that we interact with ChatGPT. And an agent will go out there and do all the nitty-gritty transactions that's necessary to get all of this done. So I think that is the future of what the blockchain is probably going to be like. And many of these ecosystems already recognize this. So they are finding ways to chase after the most interesting teams. They have various scouts that are out there. They are looking for the best projects and trying to win them on board to build in their particular ecosystem of blockchain using grant and token incentives around this. So I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a war. So far, Base and Solana are the ones that are in the leading side of this. But I think there are probably going to be a few more that will also be fairly big players. I think one that comes to mind offhand is like is this L2 called Mode. And basically, I think they are very focused on the DeFi side of things. They built a couple of like AI agents that's focused on optimizing like DeFi protocols and all of that. They had like an app store for like DeFi AI agents. So I think like all of these like different blockchains are going to find a little bit of their own sort of like niche around some of these things, because I think that's the only real way to compete. If you just want to be a very general purpose AI agent platform or blockchain, I think it's going to be hard to sort of like steal that thunder away from Base or Solana, or steal developer interest away from them. But if you can say that, hey, your blockchain is much better at doing certain things, or has built a certain ecosystem, then I think that's the way where it can build a pretty thriving community around it.
I see that Nick has a question, which I'll get to that in a moment, but just want to mention want to comment about Base. I saw somewhere where the fees were pretty low in terms of the amount of fees that Ethereum collects from Base, but since this whole AI agent burst, it's increased drastically. So if anybody's writing off Ethereum, I wouldn't do so just yet, because there are going to be a lot of fees that they're going to generate from the success of that Base is having around AI agents. That's my personal thought on that. Nick, you had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Mikhail. And Teng, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'll give a quick intro. So my name is Nick. I work in ecosystem and growth with a company called Sindri. We're ZK proof and AI infrastructure automation. So this is super timely. I'm actually just getting into the swing of a bunch of AI outreach and talking about how AI agents can be sort of, provably verified through ZK. So I thought it was just really awesome that Mikhail was able to get you up here. I've already signed up to your newsletter. Thank you for that. But Teng, would love to hear your take on if ZK comes up in some of these discussions. Based on what I've heard from our co-founders and kind of the direction I'm going down the path of, is this idea where you can get rid of these hallucinations, as agents start to exchange value and data. ZK proving could be a pretty big component and an unlock for that. So anyways, it's just super timely. That's why I joined in. I thought it was great, Mikhail, for setting this up. And Teng, happy to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. Nice to meet you, Nick. So I guess if you think about this, right, and something I've been thinking about for a while, if you look at like crypto and AI, right now these are like just two like very big like technology trends or even like buzzwords, and we're just putting them together, right? But what does crypto AI actually mean? Like, what will come out of this intersection between like blockchain as well as AI? And I think like one of the areas that is probably where crypto can actually play a real important part in AI is around verification. And there's no other way to make sure that an AI model is actually running the way that it's supposed to run, that the inputs are actually done in the way they're supposed to do, and the outputs are actually what I anticipate it to be. Because it's, for example, if I were to ask like OpenAI to run a particular query or certain question, I expect it to come from GPT-4. What's to prevent OpenAI from using an inferior model like GPT-3 or GPT-2 to produce an answer, because it's cheaper for them, right? In terms of the amount of like compute cost it requires to produce that. So there is no way to do this verification in a practical way, in a trustless way, outside of using a blockchain. And I think that's where this verification part plays a very important role, and is going to be very important in the future development of AI. So ZK, as what you mentioned, is one of the areas where we can actually have like real proof that a certain thing or certain kind of computation was actually done from the AI model. A lot of times, I think because the blockchains today are very limited, it means that we can't do AI computation directly on the blockchain. We can't run a llama tree or a large language model on the Ethereum blockchain, because it's just not set up for it. It's way too expensive. It doesn't have the bandwidth to run these AI computations. So basically what happens if we want to run AI on the blockchain and do these kind of verifications is that we need to run the AI model on another server off-chain, and then we verify the outputs from the AI model using something like ZK technology. So my general views is that ZK is super cool. I think that's very important. It's the only way we can mathematically prove that a particular like inference was actually computed in the right way as it was stated. There are other approaches that other teams have been trying around things like they're using like PEs. They have been using like crypto economic incentives to make sure that nodes are honest. So I think that there's different approaches. All of them have different trade-offs. I think the main thing about ZK is that, and I'm not an expert here, but I feel like it's probably still in its early days. It's improving very fast, but in terms of being able to scale up to being used in some of these like very large models is still a bit slow. Actually, it's still pretty slow and still pretty costly to do something like this. But I have no doubt, like in the coming months and years, that this is just only going to get better and cheaper until it becomes like very widely used.
Honestly, Teng, fantastic answer. Mikhail, thanks for letting me do that. I hope that was helpful for everybody else. But yeah, that's exactly what we were envisioning, Teng, is this idea of using ZK to mathematically prove these things. And your example of, I query GPT-4, how do I know it's not spitting out GPT-2 or 2.5 and saving a bunch of money? And you can imagine you can balloon that out to somebody paying $1 billion for a custom tuned model on their own data set, like a General Motors tech company or something like that with their own proprietary data, contracting somebody to build a crazy agent LLM. And so ZK is a really cool part of it. I agree with you, TEs, FHE, a bunch of other tech. I'll tell you what, Teng, my team and I are there to make ZK that part of the reality. So if there's a chance to catch up, maybe offline, would love to kind of pick your brain on some stuff. And anybody else who's interested in starting this conversation, I didn't think I'd be having an AI-based conversation in the last couple of months, but it turns out that, like you said, ZK is a mathematically way to prove this stuff. So happy to kind of talk some more and appreciate the audience here, Mikhail and Teng.
Yeah,
no, anytime.
No, thanks for that.
Hey, Zoe, how are you?
Oh, hey, Mikhail. Long time no see, but the topic definitely interests me to jump in here today as well. And nice to meet you, Teng. Thank you so much for the input. I just wanted to follow up on this, Nick. Great question. I said it in the chat already. Just wanted to emphasize a little bit on how important these security mechanisms are for AI use cases, right? Trusted execution environments. I'm with Phala Network, we are over 5 years building a trusted execution environment cloud. And with the rise of AI in the last year, we just have seen a very good fit between the merge of AI and Web3, and especially using our technology. And a lot around these discussions, because since AI is coming to the Web3 space, we really need to see how can we actually verify it, right? About everything that Teng said. And we have so much cool technology, and trusted execution environment, just one technology that struggled a long time to actually get accepted by the Ethereum community, to get really accepted as a verification mechanism, because it's not done on chain, right? It's off chain. But because of this, we have a lot more computational resources to actually verify AI instead of putting it on chain via ZK. So just wanted to emphasize on the importance of AI security and really bring in that people that work on FHE, ZK, TE can really bring a big change to the AI use cases and emphasize on the merge between AI and Web3. And I'm also happy to connect with everyone that's excited on these topics afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi Teng. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. And was subscribed for your newsletters like for maybe 3 or 4 months already. So my question is about the future of AI tooling. What do you think about it? So for the Web3, I think there is no like quite established, and for the Web2 as well, there is no quite well established framework for the tooling. And how do you see? Is it like a showstopper for the AI agents for Web3 and for Web2 to be developing rapidly, or not, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess a few like high level thoughts or reactions like to your question and some of the things that you said is that one is that because this is a fairly new technology and new primitive, especially if you're talking about like crypto AI agents, right? Not just the normal AI agents, but AI agents that have are connected to a wallet, are able to execute actions on chain. We are in like the very early days of this, and so the tooling is going to take time to be built up. But I think a lot of people are working on this. I think the ultimate vision is like, for example, today I was actually talking to a team. They are building what is almost like I think what was it called? It's like lovable dev, but basically for like crypto AI agents. But basically what it means is that to build software, you basically have a conversation with the agent. You don't even need to write the code, right? Basically you talk to the agent, you tell the agent what you need to do. You say, I'm building this website. This is the content of this website. The agent comes up with the whole website. And then you tell it what it needs to be tweaked in natural language, and then it does that, and then it changes it for you. I feel like that's the very natural like next interface for where this is going, especially around many of these like no code platforms. And why I say that is because that if I just look at the people who are actually building stuff on AI agents, I think that there are a couple of people that did a number of surveys that actually a very good number of people that are experimenting with AI agents. These are not your traditional like software engineers and developers. Like many of them are actually pretty new to the space. They are not trained. They didn't study like computer science. But because of the tools we have today, like Claude and GPT-4, it actually makes it like feasible, right, for people to actually even experiment and try to do some of these things. So I think there is that market for people who are very very technical software developers, but there's an even bigger market for people like you and me who might want to build an AI agent to sort of like make some of our work processes or daily processes better. They definitely want all of these like different tools. They want all of these like different things that actually help them to actually do this in a way that doesn't require them to actually go down, know actually how to type, review code and all of that. And then I think the tooling that supports all of these things in terms of like DevOps and all of that is also going to get better. I think like many of these are going to come in from the Web2 space into Web3 as well. So there's just some high level thoughts. I'm not as deep in the weeds on the technical side of it, but yeah, this is kind of how I think it might evolve this year.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask you another question about tooling, but it's more deeper, and I think it's somehow connected to your like past experience with ML. What do you think about connection of traditional ML libraries as a tools to AI agents, like, you know, all these polynomial regressions, whatever, but connected as a tool to the agent for him to adjust all the parameters of the model?
So I think that's definitely possible, and I think the more things that an AI agent can be connected to, it just expands the level of like use cases it could be. So for example, I think like if an AI agent is able to be connected to say a traditional like ML model, it might be able to, it might be able to, for example, like help to improve the ML model, find data feeds that actually will feed into this, is able to evaluate the outputs and make sure that it's always, getting better in some way. So it can basically help speed up development, or at least make sure that the ML model is continually like relevant and performing well. I think that could be one thing, but I think eventually in the future, like almost everything is going to be able to be connected to AI agents, and that will just make, because like the design space for agents is just almost limitless, right? So I think like everything, every website, every application, everything that we do today actually could be done, or at least like improved or automated in some way, like using an AI agent.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your detailed answer.
Hey, Myron.
You're welcome.
Hey man, I guess since we brought up tools, that's what my company does. So I work with Andromeda Protocol, so we're a level 1 Cosmos SDK oriented blockchain, but we also produce some software that makes it standardized and easy to deploy granular blockchain pieces in a synchronized fashion to a large swath of Cosmos blockchains. So we're a tool, right? So and I've gone really deep dive into the virtuals, which is closed source, and also especially into the ELIZA, the AI16Z, their tool set. And it seems like that the upcoming big thing is probably, to me, going to, at least from what I can see from far away, going to be the tool sets that the agents use. So what do you see in the future of that? Because that's kind of a big deal, and I'm researching that right now. So maybe you can jumpstart my research.
I think like especially we are talking about like AI agent frameworks, like there are just so many of them out there, right? ELIZA is one, virtuals is one, but beyond that, there are a lot of like very big ones that are being used in open source like today. So I think like as an agent framework, there's nothing that is particularly striking about many of these things. I think eventually they'll converge around the same kind of features. I think if we think about the ones like say ELIZA and the more crypto native like frameworks, I think the things that will really set them apart is being able to do things and review things that are very specific to blockchains and crypto. So for example, being able to access like on-chain data in a structured way that makes it easy for the agents to understand what's actually going on, or be able to actually execute transactions on the blockchain in a way that sort of actually really works. And these are not easy problems, because like smart contracts are often not labeled. It's very hard to figure out how to navigate the blockchain if you are not, if you are an AI agent, it's pretty messy. It's just numbers all around. So I think those are the kind of things that will really set these like frameworks apart. And I'm looking for these frameworks to actually start to implement some of these things in the future in a more powerful way, I think, and that will unlock a lot of like crypto AI agent use cases.
Right on. Thank you.
Hey, Zoe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to hear Teng's because I just subscribed to your content, so I don't know your stand on the question I want to ask. Governance, agents in governance. If you ever wrote a piece about it, or how do you see governance in different ecosystems evolving through AI? If you have any opinion or content on it.
Yeah, I haven't thought as deeply about governance. I love like if anybody else has opinions on this, but I think a few things is that one, in terms of like AI agents being able to sort of like improve the current like DAO governance processes, I think that is important, because if you look at what goes on in like I think one of the reasons why DAOs haven't really taken off in the way that many people thought they would is just that it's just a lot of effort, and most people who are part of community or a group like or an organization, they just don't have the time, energy, or mental interest to really get themselves informed in a way that can actually make good informed decisions, right? But an AI agent is not limited by that. It's able to digest all the different proposals. It's able to digest all the different viewpoints and discussions within the community or the Discord group, and then come up with an informed opinion around this. So I think that's one of the things that an AI agent can do in terms of improving these processes. I think the other side around governance is how do we govern these AI agents, right? So how do we make sure that these agents are, how do we figure out like what actions these agents can do? How do we decide what the direction of these agents will take? How do we influence the future improvement of some of these AI agents? I think this is sort of like very much an emerging area. I haven't really seen anyone who's really done this very well from a governance point of view. I think there are people who talk a lot about it, but the actual implementation is always going to be the sort of like the most challenging part. But the potential is there for sure. So I think that's why we have tokens, why we have crypto, and governance plays an important part.
What do you think about traditional Web2 frameworks for agents compared to the frameworks of Web3 agents like ELIZA, etc.?
I've seen a few people actually do a very detailed review of the different like software Web3 agent frameworks, like from ELIZA, Virtual, Cerebro, and a few other different ones. So they've kind of analyzed the different feature sets and all of that. My general view is that these frameworks are very early. Like, if you look at like ELIZA, when AI 16Z DAO launched, like it was just like barely like 3 months ago. Like I don't think they ever thought like this would be where they were heading. And so it's a very iterative, very messy kind of process. And I think that kind of like feeds into what ELIZA as a framework is. So if you go into look at it, because it's very community driven, and there has been a huge amount of interest in this, everyone's contributing to the software framework. It's actually pretty messy, and I've seen like feedback from people who have been using it that they haven't been able to figure out like what the different plugins, how to actually use these different plugins. There's very little documentation around what it does, and people are a bit lost in terms of what the vision of this framework is trying to do. Is it trying to be like a crypto native like framework for on-chain AI agents? Is it trying to be a very good social media distribution channel, and all of that? I feel like they're just trying to figure out, because it's only been like a couple of months, right? So eventually this will all like come back. But I think I just want to point out that the Web3 agent frameworks, they are just like very, very new, and we have to give them a little bit of time to sort of like get into their sort of groove. So you always have to be a bit careful, I think, with using this. You sometimes might find it a little bit frustrating to navigate through some of these different frameworks, because they're still improving, evolving, versus the much more established ones already in the sort of like Web2 space, like LangChain, LangGraph, AutoGPT, and all of these.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Myron.
So yeah, I mean, I've gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole of kind of all that. I was doing automation stuff with the no-code builders, the N8 and and which the other ones are LangChain, like LangChain and LangFlow. What's the other one? I can't remember. And after that, I checked out, I messed around with like LangChain raw, just for as a code type thing, and then checked out all of the coders, the pair paired, coders like the Aider, and definitely use Cursor and all those different things. Do you have like a favorite tool set? Because I know that all the different agents, especially when imbued with different models, do you have like they have like radically different outputs? Do you have like a favorite setup that you like to use for that sort of thing, like for coding and for like agentic use? Like, what do you use? What's your favorite? Is that a good question?
It's a good question, but maybe someone else here, like who's actually building these agents or that might have some like maybe they can share their experiences. Because I'm not actively like building stuff right now, like using these frameworks.
Yeah, Myron, I can answer your question a bit. So if you have used the Crew AI, for example, for the, of course you have used, and it's already included in various frameworks. I think this one is good to start with. And if you have some, custom functionality, you can just go deeper into the LangChain itself and implement all the like chain of reasoning by yourself using the LangGraph, for example. And but this is like a bit complicated right now because all this tech is pretty experimental as well, even in the Web2 field. And in the Web3 field, we have like experiment, term, another experiment. So the complication is very complicated, if I can say so. Yeah, if my answer was helpful. Yeah.
It kind of potentially was, because that sounds like I've gone down the right rabbit hole, because I've messed around with all that stuff, gone pretty deep into the LangChain, LangGraph, like I said, all the different automators. I've used all the models that you could possibly use, everything from DeepSeek all the way to, I got in real early to the ChatGPT beta, and then when the API came out, I just used it till I couldn't anymore. Yeah, I guess pretty much my next question would be about the models themselves. Like you've probably used all the different models. Like, what do you think about the attitudes and the different like approaches that the models themselves take to solving problems and whatnot?
If you're asking me, sorry.
Whoever.
No, if you have, if you want to take that, that's fine. But I'll just chime in like my own personal thoughts, and this is from my own like usage. I mean, firstly, I think in terms of like evaluating models, there are all these like different benchmarks, but I think like many of these are like very vanity metrics. Like it doesn't necessarily translate to actual like performance in the applications that you use. It's just a way, because like these are very general sort of like automated sort of benchmarks. So I don't put too much into this. For my own personal use, is I just experiment and try, and I find like various models are better like for certain sort of like use cases. I must say like the OpenAI models are generally the ones that I use most in my sort of like automation workflows. I try to compare them with Claude. I think sometimes it's just a matter of preference in terms of the language outputs that you want. Sometimes it writes in a certain way. It has certain quirks in terms of how it presents its content. I find that they generally are like 90% like similar in terms of the outputs, at least in the use cases I've done. The one that I really want to spend a lot more time on is with Gemini. I think they are definitely improving very quickly, even though like Google really started like before. Google kind of like fell behind in terms of in the early days of the large models races, but they've created a lot of like very cool stuff. Like the one I was just experimenting with a lot this week was the I think the deep research with Gemini, and it's able to like sort of like pull together a whole research article on whatever topic and parameters you mentioned, and create like that maybe 10 or 20 page report in just a couple of minutes of that, right? Which is pretty amazing to me, especially for someone who does a lot of research in the space. So that's the one I actually want to spend a lot of my time. I have a sense that maybe these models actually might be actually better in some way.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I've been using the Google Gemini models for a good long time on a bunch of different things, and though they weren't great at coding, they were really good at just about everything else. Particularly if you use them directly through the Google AI Studio interface. Like if you're using the API and you're or pretty much in any other in Vertex or anything, it's not as good. But if you use the Gemini models, in particular the brand new one, the 1206, and the thinking model. The new thinking model. Mind-blowing. Yeah, I asked it to factor a 200-digit number the other day, and it's like, here it is. Like seriously, I was like, oh,
it's amazing.
that's, that means, well, I mean, that's got all kinds of implications. But yeah, if I was going to say try something, then I would say like try out the Google AI, the particularly the 1206 model inside of the AI Studio, and it's got like a 2 million token context window, so you can take pretty big, documents and like code bases. And actually, the first thing I did with Eliza before it got too big to do so was I threw it directly into 1206, and then had it do like chain of thought, tree of thought, cross references, and it spit out like basically everything I needed to know in order to just, configure it, everything, all of it. So, and all of it was 100% accurate. So what I've found in my own personal, and you were talking about benchmarks, man, I've ignored benchmarks for a long time, because as soon as people learned how to game them, they were worthless. And so it became you know what I mean? So it became a situation of, well, will it do this complex task for me? And that's it. And so, but yeah, that's I don't know if it'll still, if the Eliza framework will still fit into the 1206 AI Studio token window, token context window, but you might give that a shot. But although their Eliza GG that I put up a little earlier, that's pretty amazing. So, and I've tried out a bunch of different frameworks. Virtual is like I said, is closed source. So I can't get to the code, or I would check it out. But the Eliza framework, I've done the deep dive on that, because as soon as it came out, it was pretty obvious that it was superior to pretty much anything that I had seen of its type up to then that was open source that I could change around. And as soon as it kind of, as soon as word got out about it, then some of the developers that I really respect started contributing to it, and I was like, oh well, if that's what's going to happen, then I kind of can see what the direction is going to be. But yeah. Anyway, so that's what I would say. 1206 inside of AI Studio.
Okay. Oh gosh, I definitely have to spend more time on that then. Yeah.
Like on large things, it's got like it approaches like I'd say like a 95% retrieval accuracy rate.
That's amazing.
Really high. It's really good. So
this conversation is obviously very vast. Like, we started from like what are the basics, and it got very technical towards the end, which that's great. It just kind of shows overall, like, this topic, this conversation brings everybody together, and I definitely don't want to stop anybody from having the conversation. Please feel free to continue. I dropped the link to the community because I know that some of you are in there, but your Telegram gets cluttered. So if you guys want to continue the conversation, please feel free to do so. And I want to hear from you guys. I mean, what did you think about today's topic? I mean, it sounds like this is very interesting. What did you guys think? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up in class. Go ahead, man.
More.
Okay. Note to self. Okay, I will do more AI topics for sure. And again, I want to thank Teng for contributing his time and his knowledge. And thank you also to the listeners and the people that commented and provided feedback and shared what they're working on as well. Sieva, Myron, Zoe, Nick, like all of you, thank you so much for contributing to this amazing discussion. I'm really excited to continue this conversation in the chat and also on the future call.